Today we're going to go through some troubleshooting tips when housebreaking a puppy in an apartment. It is certainly a little bit different when you do live in a high-rise or an apartment in the city as opposed to a house or a townhome, for example, with a backyard with a potty area right there. There's a couple factors involved. Like I said, in a high-rise or an apartment, the potty area takes a few minutes to get to. When you're in a house, the potty area takes 10 seconds to get to. You also have the factor of leash versus no leash. Typically, you don't always need a leash if you're in a home or a townhome with a backyard, especially if there's a fence. When you live in an apartment in the city, there's no option there. For safety, you have to have a leash on. So tip number one would be, especially for some of these toy breeds at a very young age, the amount of time it sometimes will take, especially if you're on like the 20th floor, to get to the potty area is just too long. So we'll sometimes recommend people to either get some fake turf or even a couple pieces of sod. I know it sounds a little messy and crazy, but it's very temporary. You could place that sod on something like the tray from a wire crate, just to keep the mess contained. And you can at least get them started going on there. Not all the time, but whether it be at night, first thing in the morning and so on and so forth. The second would be carrying versus not carrying. Now, typically, I don't like carrying puppies from point A to point B. Now, a small puppy can obviously not get down the stairs. You have to help them. But I really like getting them going to the door on their own and then walking out to the potty area. But it's just not practical to do that. Once again, if you're in a high-rise or a tall apartment building, it takes way too long. You have to go to the door, go down the hallway, go to the elevator, down the elevator, through the lobby, out to the street, to the potty area. Most young puppies are not going to be able to hold it that long, so I'll just carry them. Carry them down. This is temporary until they start to build up a little more bladder control and they start to build up a history of being rewarded for going on grass outside. Lastly would be, we were talking about leash versus no leash. I would either use a retractable, which typically I don't like retractable leashes, or some sort of long lead. I think a 20-foot long lead would be appropriate. And a long lead is just a long leash. The reason I like using one of those two things is it allows your puppy to gain access to a little space in the potty area. A lot of times, my dogs will move away from me a little bit when they want to go sniff around and go potty. This just gives them more room, but you're keeping them safe, especially if you're in an apartment in the city. There's just no other option. They have to be on some type of leash. So these are just a couple of those tips. They all work really well if you are having a hard time with potty training. Give them a try and you could be well on your way to having a potty trained dog.